really appreciate the opportunity to speak on this topic today. Um, I am a nurse. I work at UC San Diego in the Regional Burn Center. I kind of came across this issue in our acute burn clinic, which I manage, and we were seeing lots of patients with burns from nitrous oxide and something that we hadn't really seen before. And so it kind of piqued my interest to dig in a little deeper. And then, it's really snowballed from there. And so I really hope this is informative for you guys and hopefully can help lead to some change. And we have some great speakers besides myself as well. So um, just a little background because some people don't know there's a burn center in San Diego County, but we have a burn center at the Hillcrest Hospital at UCSD. We're a pediatric and adult burn center, and we cover both Imperial County and San Diego County. So we see people for all kinds of burns. But like I said, this one's focused on these nitrous burns that we're really seeing more of. So what is nitrous oxide? It's a odorless, colorless gas. It has legitimate uses in medical and dental procedures for anesthesia purposes, and also for as a propellant in food products. And so this puts it in a weird gray area of sort of regulation where it's not regulated by the DEA, it's regulated by the FDA. And so that makes enforcement of it, especially with its legitimate uses, challenging and kind of nuanced. So, but the Global Drug Survey shows that nitrous is the 12th most common drugs of abuse. It's very cheap, easily accessible, which we'll kind of talk more about that. It is kind of ubiquitous now in our country, easy to get across, shops, online retailers as well, and it comes in many different packaging. So this is one of the ones that once I started seeing more of these nitrous burns, I looked into it, and Galaxy Gas is one of the biggest names in recreational nitrous. You can see by this review that I just screenshotted from Amazon that people love turning their brain into whipped cream. And this is kind of what, the high from nitrous that causes that. And so there's many different names for it: whippets, laughing gas, hippie crack. I think James, who speaks after me, had a few more that were interesting. But it's sold in these highly pressurized containers. Oftentimes it's discharged into a balloon, and other times it can be just inhaled directly from a canister. The high includes dissociation and floating, visual and auditory hallucinations, as well as euphoria. And then oftentimes this is mixed with other drugs that can intensify that high and hallucinations, including stimulants, cannabis, ketamine, LSD, mushroom, salvia, and other drugs that are used in conjunction with it. These are all just screen grabs I pulled from Amazon. These are giant containers of nitrous. And to put it in perspective a little bit, like a ready whip container contains about I think it's 6 grams of nitrous. These contain over 2,000. So you can make a lot of whipped cream with these containers. And, it's really obvious when you're looking at the packaging, the very colorful packaging and sort of like the descriptions of these products, that these are not being used to make whipped cream. These are being used for inhalants. There's lots of health risks associated with nitrous oxide, and I think there's a misconception that it's relatively benign, but it can lead to a lot of like long-term health problems. And some of it, like, we don't have long-term research to support that, like sort of the ongoing problems that people have, but it's apparent that, people will end up with memory loss. Vitamin B12 depletion is one of the most serious consequences of it, and that B12 is actually important in your body for your nerve function. And it helps in generating myelin that surrounds your nerves. And so this ongoing use of nitrous causes your B12 to be depleted so poorly that it leads to brain and nerve damage. can lead to ringing or buzzing in the ears, also incontinence, numbness in the hands and feet related to that nerve damage, spasms, birth defects, weakened immune system, depression. Psychological dependence is huge, and also there seems to be there's a component of physical dependence as well that we don't have a lot of research on, but you can see when you're doing research online that it is very, very addicting. Fair warning, there are some graphic photos that I have. I work in the burn center, and so we take photos of all of our wounds, and it helps kind of demonstrate how bad these can be. So if you're not interested in seeing graphic photos of burns, you can either minimize your screen just so you can listen to me or turn away. Um, so uh, coming up here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So like I said, I got interested in this because I manage our acute burn clinic, and we started to see a rash of patients coming in with these injuries. And so nitrous oxide causes burns because it's cold. So these are like frostbite burns. It actually, in those containers, it's stored at -40 degrees Celsius. Um, these patients who are inhaling it, they inhale it either directly from the container or from a balloon. If you don't, and if you put it into a balloon, the temperature can kind of stabilize, so it's not quite as cold. But many a times, when people are burning themselves, it's directly from the container. And these patients will lose consciousness, and the container itself can get very cold, so that can cause a contact burn, like what you're seeing, or the container can continue to discharge on the skin after these patients lose brief consciousness. And cause these injuries as well. And you can see here, this is a picture of somebody's mouth. You can see there's a burn back here, way back on their uvula, and that's from inhaling it directly from canisters that are at -40 degrees Celsius. So these are usually full thickness burns. Like I said, it's frostbite. It's about the only kind of frostbite we see in our burn center, so it's kind of easy to determine, especially in San Diego. We just don't see a lot of frostbite. But these burns are all deep enough to require surgery and grafting, and that usually equals a 2-week hospital stay at the minimum, and sometimes much longer than that. So this is a significant drain on healthcare resources. These patients need a lot of care in the outpatient setting or as an inpatient. And we also see this drug abused among very young teenagers as well, kids as young as 13 that we've seen in our unit. And I think that is related to how easily accessible it is, how cheap it is, and also the misconception that it's not dangerous. And so this is just a little look at our data. But I was curious once we started to see this jump in 2025, what we'd seen before that. But I looked at 4 years of data. We hadn't seen any patients with identified nitrous burns in 2022 or 2023. Excuse me. We had 3 patients that were admitted in 2024. So these are patients that had to stay in the hospital for their injuries. And then in 2025, we treated 8 patients. There was a few more at the very end of 2025 that aren't included in here too, and we've already seen some more in 2026. And so this is an ongoing trend. This is not a huge number of patients. However, it does indicate that, this is a trending thing that we need to kind of stay on top of. And like I said, these patients have significant injuries. Strangely enough, most burns, a majority of burns actually happen in males. However, with nitrous burns in particular, it seems we've seen more females with these type of burns. Excuse me. This is a 33-year-old female. This is a patient had the canister in between her legs, so she has burns on both of her inner thighs. And it's from the container contacting that. Many times there's a delay in seeking care for these burns. These people are, substance abusers, and they don't want to seek care. And oftentimes these burns might not even hurt because they're so deep. But this patient did require autograft to both of her sites. That's where we have to take skin from another part of her body and put it over these burns to heal. It's a 2-week hospital stay and a lot of healthcare dollars spent. This may be the worst nitrous case that I saw. She was a 27-year-old female. passed out in her car for up to 2 days. And she was finally, authorities were called from her neighbor, but she had all these scattered wounds all over her legs, arms, and torso. And these are all different ages of burns. So she was found kind of incapacitated in her car with all these different burns from canisters. She required autograph to many of these sites. We actually were able to keep her clean, of course, while she's in the hospital. Excuse me. We discharged her, and then she came back to the hospital with new burns that required autografting. So the addiction was very strong with her. She, even after this long hospital stay, she ended up using again. This is a 13-year-old male, and he was huffing nitrous in a car. This is a bad burn. It's on his hand. This is from holding the canister. And he was admitted to our hospital for over a month for autograft and wound care. There is some research out there on burns and nitrous use. However, it's pretty sparse. Like I said, it seems to be really trending up in usage. And so this is a topic amongst my burn colleagues. But looking at the next steps for this, and this is something that I'm sorry, James and Erik are going to talk about as well, but the regulating of sale of nitrous for recreational use, how can we limit that, and what do we do to just limit availability of nitrous to people in our community? It's everywhere right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to James, I believe.
So by way of introduction, I'm the chief of the Major Narcotics Division at the San Diego County District Attorney's Office. I've been the chief of major narcotics for the last 5 years. And as you can imagine, much of our focus over these past 5 years has been on what we consider hard drugs: fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, all those kind of drugs, and for very good reason, because of all of the harm and the loss of life that is being caused by those hard drugs. But it's so important that we not lose sight of all these other threats that are in existence throughout the country and right here in San Diego County. So I'm really happy that I'm able to have this opportunity to share with you what we're seeing here in San Diego County, give you a little bit more of what I've come to learn about nitrous oxide. And I think you're going to be surprised with what you learn, just like I was surprised as I started diving deeper into nitrous oxide and its effects locally here in San Diego. As you heard from Eli, there's a bunch of different nicknames for nitrous. The hippie crack, I think, is my favorite. And it's not because I have anything against hippies. It's the crack. And when you think of crack cocaine is notorious because the way that would work is if someone would use crack cocaine, the high would be intense and immediate, but then it would immediately leave. And that would force them to then go seek more crack cocaine. And it devastated the community for a number of years. It's still around, unfortunately. There's a parallel here with nitrous oxide and that effect that crack cocaine has. And as the more I started diving into nitrous and the users and the people that are addicted, and we can talk whether that's physical addiction or psychological. Research tends to say it's psychological, but you have individuals that are moving from taking one hit of that nitrous, whether it's a balloon or right from that canister like Eli talked about, and immediately feeling the need to do it again and again. And we have people going through those large canisters, several of these large canisters every single day once they develop that chronic dependence on the drug. You've heard so far about the internal harm that is being caused to the people who are using it. I'm going to touch on that as well, but also there's harm for the people surrounding the users and the community at large, which I think is very important to talk about. There is a case that this young officer was with the La Mesa Police Department, Officer Lauren Craven. And it's an open investigation, so I'm not going to get into the details and the facts underlying that investigation and the criminal prosecution. But just recently, Channel 10 they released their review of an autopsy report in this case, and noted in the autopsy report, not of the officer herself, but of someone she was responding to, there was nitrous oxide on board. And as time progresses, we're going to learn more, and we'll be able to talk more about that. And I'm going to share with you some things that I've come to learn about the cases that have come through San Diego County involving nitrous oxide. You heard Eli talk about the Ready Whip canisters, and he's absolutely right. 6.5 grams is what one of those Ready Whip containers has in terms of nitrous oxide. That Galaxy Gas container, and Galaxy Gas is one of the more popular ones, but there are a ton of different containers out there, manufacturers, Mass Gas. And as I've started doing my research on YouTube, now I start getting all these ads. The algorithm has now thinks that I am a nitrous oxide aficionado, because now I get all these ads that keep coming in trying to sell me nitrous oxide. It's way too easy to get. And as Eli suggested, you got these big canisters, flavored nitrous oxide, and that's 6.5 grams that would be used in a Ready Whip. That one canister, that 2.2 liter Galaxy Gas canister, is enough to fill 170 Ready Whips in a supermarket. And when you ask yourself, where are those large canisters being sold? It's like the worst kept secret that canister, if we turn that Galaxy Gas canister around, it's going to say, not for human use, for culinary purposes only. And I'll tell you, that is just an attempt to protect themselves from liability. When you make a product like this in that capacity and then distribute them to local smoke shops and bake shops, knowing, you usually should know that it's being sold to a place that's going to sell it to people just so they can use it and get high. And I want to share with you one of those videos I found on YouTube. Now, imagine you are a kid, a young adult, you're curious about nitrous oxide. You just have to type it into your YouTube search bar, and you're going to find something like this video. So I'm not sharing anything that none of you can find on your own. You might even find the same exact video, but I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. But take a look at the surroundings and listen carefully to what is shared in this video.
Hello everyone, this is Gary here with Smokers Junction. Today we are showing you how to use a whippet properly. So we have these nitrogen canisters. A lot of people use this as a form of using as a coffee cream as well, for making coffee cream, and also a lot of people use it recreationally as well. So if you go to a dentist, a lot of times when you're having a lot of dental work, the dentist, they put like NO2 right in your mouth, so everything is numb. So it's basically called nitrogen oxide, and what a lot of people also do is they use it as a form of a laughing gas. So I'm just not going to do it, but I'll just show it to you, the products, what we carry, and how you can use it. So this one is the nitrogen canister, this one is a pocket cracker, and this one here is the Whippet big canister. So literally these can go in this, and then you can use it. Or if you're just using a pocket cracker, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to take this out. There's already one which is used, so I'm just going to take a fresh one so you can see it. This is going to go right here. I'm just going to put this here. It's super simple to use. It's a great thing for parties as well. And the hit only lasts you for like literally 60 seconds. So once it's cracked, you might also get a frostbite, so you have to be very, very careful. You gotta put the balloon right like this, just on the top, like so, just like how you're doing it. And then you go clockwise, make sure you puncture the hole, and then slowly go anti-clockwise. So this is a very crucial part with these pocket crackers. You gotta make sure that you don't get a frostbite, so just I have to pinch this and slowly kind of like go. Okay, once that is done, you can literally just inhale and then exhale. You inhale the nitrogen oxide and then you basically exhale it right in the balloon, and then you inhale again and you hold it deep, and that's it, and hold it deep as long as you can, and then you basically have the biggest euphoria you can have. So that's pretty much it. That's a simple way of using a whippet, and you guys should definitely come to the junction to come and take a look at this product. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Write in the comments below. This is Gary signing off. Have a great day.
Okay, so you're the young person. You just watched this video from our friend Gary at the Junction Smoke Shop. And what did you take away from that? And at least if there's anything that maybe was positive from that video, and maybe Eli, you appreciate this, he warned about frostbite, right? There's a concern about frostbite. That's the only credit I'm going to give him.
Hello.
And spoiler, I'll get back to Kanye in just a second. But what did the smoke shop employees share with us? He said that it was laughing gas, just like the dentist gives you. What did he not tell you? That when you're in the dental chair and the dentist is administering nitrous oxide, it's never pure nitrous oxide. It's 30 to 50% nitrous oxide, meaning the balance is actually 50 to 70% oxygen. And after you have your procedure, dentists will flush you for a period of 5 minutes with pure oxygen to make sure all the nitrous oxide in your body is eliminated. Why? It's for safety. We can't breathe nitrous oxide. And actually, it displaces all the oxygen in our lungs. And that's why people, when they are using nitrous oxide, they will get dizzy. He says, oh, what the best euphoria you can feel. What does he leave out? The fact that you can actually lose consciousness. You can hurt yourself by falling. You can hurt others if you're behind the wheel of a car and you're doing nitrous oxide. He leaves out the fact that you, with repeated use, can and will suffer nerve damage, brain damage, incontinence. There are a host of physical issues for the user that are nowhere mentioned in that video. You can even just hear the background music in that video, and it's upbeat and lively, and it gives this impression that, hey, this is fun, euphoric, it's easy, and you can trust me. I even warned you about the frostbite, but it's laughing gas and it's fun for parties, he said. So those are the videos that are out there. That was just one of them that I chose to share with you, and it's frightening how much is left out, but it's partially why we're seeing such an increase in the use of nitrous oxide, are videos like that. I'm going to segue now into another reason why I think we're seeing that increase in nitrous oxide use. Kanye West, he's not directly responsible, but Kanye West, we all know him. The gentleman on the right, that's Dr. Thomas Connolly. Dr. Thomas Connolly was Kanye West's dentist. And recently, Kanye and his wife have now brought a lawsuit against Dr. Connolly, alleging that Dr. Connolly was providing nitrous oxide to Kanye West at $50,000 a month. Big industrial-sized canisters, tanks of nitrous oxide, so that Kanye could use whenever he wanted. Kanye says that he became addicted, and he's blaming his dentist for contributing and causing that addiction. And so he's suing him. And that was reported in Rolling Stone recently. Here's some more pop quiz. The gentleman on the right, he is a well-known, popular rapper by the name of Skrilla. And this is a screen capture from a YouTube video that I watched where he's being interviewed. During the course of the interview, Skrilla is using that canister, which is now in the gentleman's hand with the black hat. Skrilla's the gentleman on the right, and Skrilla throughout the interview keeps taking hits, inhaling nitrous oxide from the canister. This screen capture is the moment when Skrilla convinces the interviewer to actually try it. Go ahead, you have to try it. Go ahead and do it. And he does. Throughout the interview, you can see Skrilla inhaling, the interviewer use it. And Skrilla is well known, at least within the circle of rap music. He is a Philadelphia rapper out of the Kensington neighborhood in Philadelphia. And so you might not recognize his name, Skrilla, if you're not familiar, you're not into that type of music. But you might recognize this. For those of you, primarily if you're a middle school teacher or you have middle schoolers at home, this phenomenon of 6-7 that has taken, at least I'm hoping it's fading, but has taken over across the country. And what's the connection? That came from Skrilla's song. He has a song, Doot Doot 6-7, came out in February of last year. It has been downloaded on Spotify over 50 million times. And that's where this 6-7 came from and is now being repeated everywhere across the country by our young people. And I'm not saying that every middle schooler now is out there who's saying 6-7 is using nitrous oxide, but I'm saying this to highlight the impact that popular music and artists can have in the realm of our social media. Skrilla is on a YouTube video, but we have so many artists out there, unfortunately concentrated in the rap music arena, who go on things like TikTok Live or Instagram Live or different, and they are actively using nitrous oxide from their canisters, and they're laughing. There are videos out there of people using nitrous oxide, losing consciousness, falling down, everyone laughs, and then they get up. What's the message that's being portrayed? That it's fun, that it's harmless, that these successful, creative individuals are doing it. How bad can it be? So the impact on our youth has been tremendous. And I'm going to share, it's not just a theory, but actually what we're seeing in terms of cases that are coming through in recent years. Eli already touched on all of the physical effects on the user of nitrous oxide, from those immediate effects of euphoria lasting very shortly to the prolonged use resulting in the nerve damage and all the different harms that can come from the consumption of nitrous oxide. So I'm not going to repeat that. But I did want to share this. The Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, well-respected medical journal, published this report in July of last year, and it tracked how many people across the United States have used nitrous oxide. And according to the survey they conducted, there were 13 million people. More concerning by that was the increase in the number of nitrous oxide fatalities, poisonings. And so what they found was between 2010 and 2023, we as a country have experienced a 578% increase in the number of people losing their lives to nitrous oxide. And I have to tell you that, in my opinion, is way understated. And the reality is most people who are using nitrous oxide, even the chronic users, are not losing their life to it. They will have that numbness, the tingling. Some people suffer paralysis. And of course, there are people dying, as this represents. For everything short of death, there's usually a period where you can recover. If you stop using nitrous oxide, if you get B12 infusions, then you can recover and walk normal and get sensation back. Not always, but oftentimes you can recover from nitrous oxide use. But what about all the other people who are harmed by the person who is using nitrous oxide? What about the people who are actually dying from nitrous oxide, but it's the result of the accident that they were involved in? That's not categorized as a nitrous oxide poisoning. It's a car crash. It's blunt force injury. Those are not being counted in these numbers. And these numbers here, they stop in 2023. my review that I'm going to share with you of San Diego County over the last couple of years, you're going to see why I think this is way lower than what's actually happening and the dramatic increase that we've experienced in the last couple of years. Before I get there, I do want to talk about the law as it relates to nitrous oxide. We do have laws on the books in the state of California that restrict the sale of nitrous oxide. Penal Code Section 381B makes it a misdemeanor to sell nitrous oxide to a person under the age of 18. And that makes it against the law to actually buy it for the purpose of getting high or to be under the influence of it. Subdivision C makes it a crime to sell it to someone under the age of 18. 381D, now it addresses the sellers, the retail shop owners. What the law currently says is if you are a seller of nitrous oxide in the state of California, you sell it to someone and you know or you reasonably suspect that that nitrous oxide is going to be used to get high, then, and someone then suffers serious bodily injury, great bodily injury, or death, then you as the seller can be held responsible and charged with a misdemeanor offense under this code section. That can use some tweaking, in my opinion, and we're working on it. That's the state of the law right now. My position, for what it's worth, is you shouldn't get a pass. You shouldn't have to wait until someone is hurt or dies before a retailer who knows it's going to be abused, misused, has some responsibility and some accountability for at least their part in the misuse of nitrous oxide. And then there are record-keeping requirements for retailers. That's the current state of the law in the state of California. Back in October of last year, Summer Stephan, along with the district attorney, Summer Stephan, along with Kelly Martinez, our sheriff of San Diego County, they did a public safety announcement warning the public about the dangers of nitrous oxide. And in that public safety announcement, it's longer. I just took a little piece here and put it on this slide. Summer Stephan talks about how we've had in an 11-month period 3 fatality cases involving nitrous oxide. Less than 2 weeks after this went out, Officer Lauren Craven lost her life in that nitrous oxide related incident. So I did my deep dive, and I'm going to share with you what I found. So I looked at all the adult cases prosecuted by the San Diego County District Attorney's Office. There's a city attorney that I'm sure they've prosecuted a number of cases as well, but just looking at our cases at the DA's office, and I went back to 2015 and I went all the way through 2025. And I looked at any case where nitrous oxide was either charged or it had a meaningful impact, meaningful involvement in the case, no matter what the charges were. And the charges varied. Sometimes it was the inhaling of nitrous oxide to get high. Oftentimes, it was driving under the influence of nitrous oxide, and oftentimes combined with alcohol, the THC, or other drugs. The chart, that graph on the left, now this is really telling. So when you go into 2015, and again, I limit it to adults, our data as it relates to juveniles is confidential for very good reasons, right? We want to strictly control that type of information regarding juveniles. So I only looked at adult cases. But look at 2015, 2016, 2017. This is the entire county of San Diego. There's 2 cases in each of those years. Nothing in 2018. 2019, these are all low single-digit numbers. Then we get to 2024. It jumps to 21 cases. By 2025, it explodes. And we're at 74 cases just in 2025 where nitrous oxide was involved. And so remember that mortality data, that one from the American Medical Association? They stopped at 2023, noting that tremendous increase. Look what happened here in San Diego in 2024 and 2025. I don't believe for one second that is unique to San Diego County. I believe that is across this country, and that if we did similar research, we would find similar findings that the use of nitrous oxide has exploded across the country our data shows that it has, at least here in San Diego County. And in terms of those cases, I did my case study. I'm going to share with you some of the notes because I think it's important that you actually hear what some of these cases are about. Most of them, of course, coming from 2024 and 2025. I'm not going to share the names of the individuals or the case numbers. I'm going to share just the facts, and they're in my notes. So the sentences might not be fully complete, but you're going to get the picture of what I'm talking about. Here's the first one. Defendant, 18 years old, drove with 3 passengers, veered off road and hit a tree. All 4 are cousins. Passers-by stop and pull 2 from the car. Defendant starts tossing nitrous oxide canisters from the car and asks others to help. Dozens of canisters found at the scene along with a whippet inhaler. 1 passenger, 25-year-old male, pronounced dead at the scene. 2 other passengers suffer multiple broken bones and hospitalized. Defendant, broken bones and jaw. Passenger says defendant was driving and doing whippets. Defendant has THC, alprazolam, and cocaine metabolite in his blood. Next case. 2-car collision. Defendant suddenly swerved in front of a car driving in opposite direction, hitting it head on. Victim 1 suffers broken clavicle. Victim 2 suffers whiplash. Defendant suffers broken foot. 2 passengers in defendant's car injured and taken to hospital. Officer finds open containers of alcohol in defendant's car, and defendant admits smoking marijuana vape while driving. Witnesses see defendant remove large nitrous oxide canister and hide it in bushes. Officers recover nitrous oxide canister and balloons. Next case. Reporting party reports hit and run, tells police defendant hit multiple parked cars, then sideswiped reporting party and lost a wheel. Officers find 2 open alcoholic containers in center console, a 640-gram canister of nitrous oxide in center armrest, and a 2.2-liter nitrous oxide canister in a laptop bag on passenger seat. Next case. Defendant fell asleep behind the wheel, crashed car into a fence. Witnesses see defendant throw canister of nitrous oxide under his car, grab his 2 children, ages 2 and 4, and run from the scene. Defendant found nearby. Next case. Defendant drives down center of the road, crashes into oncoming car. Driver of other car suffers broken wrist and laceration. Victim's car is pushed back into second victim vehicle. Defendant keeps driving. Stopped by police. Defendant disoriented. Passenger in defendant's car says defendant and occupants doing nitrous oxide at the park. Nitrous found in car. Next case. Defendant swerves into oncoming traffic, crashing into victim's car, flipping it onto its side. Victim, 17 years old, has concussion. Defendant admits inhaling nitrous oxide while driving and losing consciousness. Smoked marijuana earlier. And the cases go on and on and on like that. And we just don't hear about it, right? And so if you just saw the video of how to use whippets and you thought that, hey, it's fun, it's euphoric, it's fun for parties, no one is hearing about all these cases and all the harm that is being caused by this use of nitrous oxide, not only to the person inhaling it, but to all these innocent drivers on our streets, passengers in the cars, and the users themselves from the injuries that are resulting. In addition to those cases, we have 4 cases with 5 deaths. 5 people lost their lives in 4 cases. Those cases are open right now and being prosecuted by my office. So I'm not going to share with you the details of those, just to respect that investigation and prosecution. But all the cases I shared with you, I found them incredibly eye-opening. And the graph on the right talks about how so many of these nitrous oxide cases, again, this is all San Diego County, involve a vehicle. Some, there's no collision at all. Maybe there's cases where there's a person passed out, unconscious from using nitrous oxide in the drive-through for Popeyes, or they're passed out in a parking lot behind the wheel. So no injuries, but they're in a car. Doesn't take much imagination to think what might happen next. And then, of course, we have all the collisions and the injuries, examples of which I just gave you, and sadly, the fatalities that are happening. So what is happening in terms of legislation? Is there more that's happening? I talked to you about the current state of the law. Well, there's this Assembly Bill 1107. It was introduced during the current legislative session in California, and it was seeking to connect licensing provisions for retailers that sell nitrous oxide and knowing that it's going to be abused. Again, this is at least a movement in the right direction. They don't add the injury requirement. If you're a seller, you know it's going to be used or abused, and you suspect that, and you do that, you sell it anyway, you could suspend your license, your business license could be suspended for that. Unfortunately, that is currently held under submission as of May 23rd of 2025. Is there going to be any forward movement on AB 1107? Who knows? Let's hope. It's not the only legislation that is being proposed. There's another bill. Here's going to give you a little insight into how the sausage is made, meaning the ugly, kind of sometimes chaotic process in which laws are passed in our state and every state in the country. So this is Senate Bill 758. It was introduced in February of 2026, and it was dealt with peremptory challenges in jury selection. Why am I talking about peremptory challenges in jury selection? Well, the good news is I'm not, but that's how the bill started. About 2 weeks later, that's gone. Now the bill seeks to ban the sale of nitrous oxide by any retailer and was seeking to schedule 7-hydroxymetragenine. That is an alkaloid in kratom. Maybe you've heard of kratom. That's a whole nother discussion we can have about kratom. But this bill sought to ban the sale of nitrous oxide by any retailer and then schedule this 7-OH is what I'll call it as a controlled substance with criminal liability for selling it or distributing it or possessing it. There's another amendment that comes by, and what happens with this amendment is now they want to ban the sale of nitrous oxide except for grocery stores. And I understand that, right? Those Ready Whip containers, they have nitrous oxide inside of them. And they decide, you know what, we don't want to schedule that kratom component. We will make the sale and distribution a misdemeanor, and no need to go into the specifics of that. We'll have to come back for another presentation on kratom. Last amendment, currently as the bill stands, the kratom component, that's gone too. So now it's focused exclusively on nitrous oxide and the ban for retail sales of nitrous oxide with an exception for grocery stores. That's how it currently sits in the state legislature, and we'll see if in fact it moves forward and passes. The state legislature, as you can guess, and that kind of hinted to, can take a long time. It goes either from the Senate and it goes through the entire process, then over to the Assembly, or if it starts in the Assembly, then it goes to the Senate. It can take a very long time. Locally, we can act much faster. And that's exactly what's happened in different jurisdictions in the state of California. Orange County, for example, passed their local ordinance. It applies in unincorporated areas of the county, in Orange County, where it then seeks to ban the sale of nitrous oxide with those exceptions for medical, dental, culinary, or automotive purposes. Other jurisdictions within cities, they can also pass their own bans. Right now in San Diego County, we do not have either a county ordinance or any of our cities within the county. Nothing has been done for a local ordinance, although we still continue to prosecute our cases under the existing law and of course DUIs with injuries. And in those fatalities, those are being charged as either murders or gross vehicular manslaughters. But we're seeing, unfortunately, way too many of those. That's my presentation. Part of my team right here, mom and dad on the far left. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to your questions at the end, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Berg.
I'm Dr. Erik Berg. I'm a physician with County Public Health. And just, shout out to Eli and James for great presentations, covering the health harms of nitrous oxide, some of the legal aspects. I'm going to try to briefly make the public health case for a retail ban of nitrous oxide sales. So really the retail availability of NO creates, I think, an ongoing exposure to a product with well-known harms. And so the way that I see it, there's a strong case for local retail prohibition in San Diego. One, the harms are well described, as you've heard today already. Two, the use of and mortality associated with nitrous are likely increasing, not only here in San Diego, but across the country. I'll have more numbers to back that up. Three, the use is really driven by retail availability rather than illicit drug markets. And four, there's a low risk of substitution for more harmful substances should nitrous be banned here in the county. So the harms, I'll go quickly through this. You already heard this. Use of nitrous associated with hypoxia or low oxygen levels, loss of consciousness, traumatic injuries, and really that B12 depletion causes neurologic injury up to and including paralysis. Harms can occur unpredictably, often in inexperienced users, our youth and adolescents. And nitrous produces rapid effects, and it really leaves little margin for safe use outside of controlled medical settings. So use and mortality are increasing. I will say, I guarantee that these numbers are undercounted, but these are what we have. On the left, this graph is showing the cases that show up to San Diego County emergency departments. You can see a pretty sharp increase from 22, 23, all the way up until 2025. This 2026 is obviously year to date, so there'll be more cases. But again, the way that we capture this data is imperfect, but really shows us a trend at least. And then in San Diego County, our NO-associated deaths have also seen an increase last year. The deaths are a lagging indicator, so these may continue to increase even throughout this year. We may see more than 8 deaths last year. And again, complicated by the difficulty of detecting nitrous, even with some of the advanced techniques that our medical examiner has. Across the country, James already shared this article with the table that I have here on the right from the American Medical Association. You can see increasing numbers of deaths from 2010 to 2023. I thought this is a snippet on the left from a national survey on drug use. And really what these numbers show is an increasing use among adolescents. I thought this is very interesting. This is looking at inhalants, so not specifically nitrous, but nitrous is a big part of inhalant use. This was a pattern that was not seen for any other drug. That you can see it in the 8th graders, both in their lifetime prevalence and in their annual prevalence of use, actually quite a bit larger than the 10th graders and 12th graders. So really what this means is that likely this trend in starting in 24 when these numbers are taken, that the 8th graders really have increased their use over what the 10th and 12th graders at that time were using. So really kind of a little bit of an ominous sign. And that fits with what Eli and James have already talked about. So next, I think the risk of displacement, meaning where would people get nitrous should it be banned from retail facilities? The risk of that is very low. Again, it's very retail dependent, the sale of nitrous. And nitrous is very different from opioids, stimulants, even cannabis, where if you did ban retail sales, it could be the access to that could easily be displaced to black markets. I don't think that's the case nearly to the extent as the other drugs for nitrous. And so I do think that a supply side intervention to restrict nitrous would likely meaningfully reduce use. And then finally, the risk of substitution. So again, I think there's a minimal risk of substitution. So really, the question is users of nitrous, if nitrous were banned, what would they substitute their nitrous for? And I think the risk of it being another harmful substance is low, at least relative to other drugs. So, nitrous, it's not typically used as a harm reduction substitute for more dangerous drugs. It's not associated with physiologic dependence that would drive users to higher risk alternatives. There is a psychological dependence component to this, but unlike an opioid, which has physiologically addictive properties, nitrous it does not seem to have that. And so, really, I think the primary effect of a ban would be to prevent the initiation, particularly among adolescents and young adults. So really kind of bringing this all together, what I'm arguing is that from the public health perspective, the benefits of banning the retail sale of nitrous outweigh the risks. And I think that a nitrous ban is best understood as not as drug prohibition, but as a removal of an unsafe consumer product whose risks really outweigh any legitimate retail benefit. And so what my recommendation is to pursue a county ordinance to prohibit the sale and distribution of nitrous for recreational use, really tightening the what's already on the books from the state, but to do that here in San Diego County. And I think from the public health perspective, another important component is for us to continue to communicate from the public health perspective to our community, including our retailers. This is something that the county has already done. Below are some of our information that's been distributed via social media on the risks of NO, targeting to adolescents, parents. And so I think, another important piece in really broadcasting the harms of NO.